Welcome to Finance 397, Personal Finance, Module 3 SLP. This is the study guide for the Module 3 SLP, and we'll cover submitting your actual personal cash flow statement and budget. So this is the assignment where you will submit your actual personal cash flow statement and budget based upon your actual expenses and income over the past month. Okay, so what are the expectations for the Module 3 SLP? In a 3 to 4 page narrative, we want you to include a cover page, and that counts as one of the 3 to 4 pages. Develop a personal cash flow analysis, and we want you to review and discuss your actual personal cash flow statement. We want you to discuss strong points, discuss areas for improvement. So if you've got a lot of unsecured debt, you got a lot of credit card bills, that's hampering your cash flow. Uh, you don't necessarily have to get out of debt. You can restructure your debts to a longer maturity. There's, Wells Fargo offers a revolving personal line of credit right now that I think has like a 9 or 10 year repayment period, or something along those lines, 6 or 7 years. Uh, First Republic Bank offers a personal line of credit right now. I think starts at $60,000 and the repayment period is 15 years. So you can repay the money at 4% or so, 4 or 5% over 15 years. So there's ways to restructure your debt at efficient rates without paying it all off. And in fact, a lot of people do 1 year. They do short maturity personal debt. So let's say somebody has 20,000 in credit card bills. They'll get a $12,000 loan, unsecured loan for 1 year, and they'll pay it off a little bit each year. Each month they'll pay the minimum payment. Let's say the minimum payment is $200 a month, so they'll pay off 2,000 of it, and then the next year they'll get another personal loan for 10,000. So, in other words, people, they use those interest-free debt consolidation offers, and they keep revolving them year after year. And that way, they either pay no interest at all, or they pay very little interest, and they keep just rolling the debt out. So, there's ways to restructure debts. Uh, and that's a way to increase your cash flow. So if you're having trouble making, paying all the bills you need to pay, or if you're having trouble hitting your financial goals, there's ways you can restructure your debts uh, to be able to do everything you need to do. Now, of course, you got to be careful you don't get too much unsecured debt, because that will mess up your credit, and at some point, if your credit rating goes down, they won't make you the interest-free offers anymore, right? So then it's like a death spiral. It's like, well, then they stop making the loans, and then you aren't able to make the payments, and then it becomes a problem. So, but manageable amounts of unsecured debt are not necessarily a bad thing. So, so that's the first part of the assignment. You talk about the strong points and the weak points of your budget and cash flow statement. Um, Actually, just your cash flow statement. So just discuss the strong points and weak points of your cash flow statement. And then the second part of the assignment is to review and discuss your personal cash flow budget. So identify and discuss the areas of the budget, your personal budget, where you made changes from the cash flow statement to improve your cash flow. So yeah, this is the budget. The cash flow is what you actually did during the month. The budget is what you'd like to do, how you'd like to improve things. So reduce credit card debt payments. And like I said, you could reduce the payments by restructuring the debt or by paying it off. So in your attempt to bring your disposable income uh, in your budget to 5 or 10% of your total take-home income, right? So if you've got a goal of getting your disposable income up to 5 or 10%, you might want to change the maturity on some of that debt. You might want to pay some of it down out of other assets, or you restructure things so that you've got more of a cushion Of course, people get that cushion. What do? They spend it. So, you know, I don't necessarily know if it's a good thing in real life, but for the purpose of budgeting, you want to try to get that extra cash flow. And what you do is you allocate that towards either a savings account or retirement or something of that nature, so that hopefully you won't just spend it. Number two, discuss the meaning of having your disposable income, right? So the meaning of having your disposable income and your budget equal to 5 or 10% of your total take-home income. So what that means is that's an amount of money you can save every month. You can invest it, try to get a return on it. You can save and buy a house. You can save and buy a rental property. You could save for a vacation. So you got this amount of money coming in that you're going to save every month, and you can begin to start saving. You would, if you're saving $500 a month, then in 6 months, that's enough money to buy a new dirt bike, right? In 6 years, that's enough to make a down payment on a house. And if you invest it in stocks over 6 years, it's enough to make a hefty down payment on a house because you'll probably get a return on it, right? So $500 a month is $6,000 a year. 6 years, that's 36,000. But if you invest it over 6 years and get a 7% return, it's more like 60,000. So, you it's a decent amount of money. All right, so for the Module 3 SLP, we want you to upload the following files to the Module 3 SLP Dropbox: your actual personal cash flow statement, your personal cash flow budget, your 3 to 4 page narrative. Okay, so what are the expectations for the Module 3 SLP? Your Module 3 SLP narrative must be 3 to 4 pages, including the cover page. You do not need to include in-text citations or a reference page. And of course, each of the items requested in sections 1, 2, and 3 will be assessed. So you want to make sure you address all the points in the assignment criteria. Okay, so part of this assignment for the SLP3 is to prepare a personal cash flow statement. A personal cash flow statement shows your income and expenses, and it shows them net of any taxes or other costs. So, your income, your monthly personal income is going to be your paycheck net of all withholding taxes. So if you pay, FICA tax, Social Security tax, Medicare tax on your wages, that's taken out of your pay before it gets deposited in your bank. So your pay might be $5,000 every 2 weeks, and you might pay 7.5% of that to Social Security, right? And another 1.85% Medicare, let's say. So you're going to pay around 9% in change to Medicare and Social Security. So out of 5,000, you're going to be left with around 4,500 after Social Security and Medicare taxes. And then you've got union dues that may be $100 a pay period. You've got retirement contributions that may be $700, $800 a pay period. You've got health insurance that might be $400 a pay, and so you work your way down, and pretty soon on a $5,000 wage base, you're taking home $2,800 every 2 weeks, something like that. So that's how you kind of break down your pay. So you don't have to worry about all that. You just have to worry about what the net amount is that's being deposited in your account. Now, if you are self-employed, it's different because your taxes aren't withheld. So if you're a real estate agent, you sell a $500,000 house, you get a 3% commission, you get $15,000 deposited in your bank account. You've got to pay self-employment tax on that. So you're going to report the income as income, and then later on you're going to deduct as a business expense you're going to deduct as a business cash flow application, your self-employment taxes, right? And your any health insurance you pay out of your business, that kind of thing. So for most of you that work and get a paycheck, you've just got your net pay biweekly. Add that up for the month, and that's what you have your monthly pay on this cash flow statement. If you have rental property, you collect rent, you can include that as a source of income. If you have a bank account or an investment, a bond that pays dividends monthly, a bond ETF or something like that that pays monthly dividends or interest, you can report that as interest income or dividend income as part of your cash flow for the month. Same thing for rents and any other income that you have. Um, The other thing is secured debts, right? Your secured debts are like your mortgage. They include your automobile lease. That's a secured debt. Your rent isn't really a secured debt, but we put it in this category because it's kind of like a mortgage payment. So your secured debts are any payments you're making on debt that is secured. Now, secured debt is debt that is collateralized. So your house, your mortgage, that's a collateralized debt because if you don't pay your mortgage, the bank can take your house away. Your car payment is also collateralized because if you don't pay your car loan, the bank can take your car away. Now, if you have a credit card, that's not a secured debt. That goes on a different page, on a different slide, in a different category of your cash flow statement because credit cards are just personally guaranteed. They're based on your personal promise to pay. They're not secured by any assets, so they're not secured debts. So anyway, you got your mortgage, any car payments on the right-hand side of this spreadsheet. Okay, so on this next part of the personal cash flow statement, you have your personal living expenses. Your monthly living expenses are, your monthly personal living expenses are alimony, auto, gas, car repairs, auto insurance, cable TV, internet, cell phone, your water bill, your tuition, property maintenance and lawn care. Yeah, I live in Long Island. Most homeowners in Long Island are too busy with their jobs in New York City to mow their own lawns, so they hire a gardener. And as you can imagine, a gardener on Long Island costs, to hire a landscaping service costs a couple $100 a month at a minimum. So they hire a lawn care service. Um, you have food, you have entertainment. If you eat out a lot, that adds up, especially if you live in a high cost of living area. You have electricity, trash disposal, water, renters or homeowners insurance, household items, life and disability insurance. Next, you have your unsecured debts, your credit cards, personal loans, medical bills that you're paying in installments. So your unsecured debt is really your credit card debt and your personal loan that's not backed by a house. That's not like a line of credit on a home equity, right? Home equity line of credit. So then finally you have your total take-home income from the first page. You take out your living expenses, and then you take out your secured debts and unsecured debts. And if you're looking for areas of improvement, this is the easiest area to improve is your monthly personal expenses. If you're spending a lot of money on food, you can start cooking more. You can start eating out less, right? So if you're hiring a landscaper, you can fire the landscaper and mow the lawn yourself if you're trying to save money. So there's quite a few things under the personal living expenses that you can, cut back on if you have to. Uh, Okay, this brings us to the personal household budget. Now, the personal household budget is the exact same thing you did for your actual cash flow statement, but what you're going to do is you're going to put your budgeted items. So let's say you think you're going to get a raise at work next month. or next year. Let's say you think that you're going to buy a new car, or you're going to sell your current car and ride the bus. Then you can make assumptions or changes to your personal expenses. You can get rid of your automobile expense and replace it with a bus ticket expense. I mean, if you're trying to save money, right? So, or vice versa. If you're trying to live large, you can, get rid of your old car payment and assume you're making a bigger car payment. And this helps you visualize, okay, if I get that new Infiniti SUV, if I go out and buy that, how much is that going to affect my disposable income? So this way, you can actually model out and see whether you can afford to buy new things or not. And so that's the purpose of a household budget. So on the second page of your household budget, you've got your monthly living expenses. This is the exact same format as the cash flow statement you just prepared. So you should be familiar with this. Your living expenses or food. Maybe you want a budget that uh, you're gonna eat in more. Maybe you want a budget that you're gonna start going out to eat more. Either way, it's gonna change the food expense and the restaurant expense, right, on your monthly living expenses. Okay, the final part of this personal cash flow budget is your unsecured debts, and then you got your summary, and it's the same thing as the cash flow statement. The only difference is with the personal budget, these are your estimated amounts. These are the amounts that you plan on spending in the future, not that you're currently spending. So helps you figure out how, if you made a change to any of these items, how it would impact you.